Hi guys, welcome back to the nest. Viper here. Nato will be joining us here shortly. He's finishing stuffing his face with Thanksgiving leftovers. And for all of you here in the US, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, safe Thanksgiving. And if you did drink, I hope you did not drive. Um, that's just me being me. We killed 3 bottles of wine and some beer, so it was awesome. We'll wait to see if people are going to come in. I'm starting a little early because I want to make sure that this thing is going to work today. I have the mic on this time, yes. From the last week when I didn't have the mic on, yeah, that definitely happened. So we'll wait. We'll see who's going to come in. I will. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. It doesn't trying to see how many people are in here. Oh, it's just us. So we're working. Yes, I am early and you're on time. How about that? Good job, Rattles. so, um, yes, I set up early because I wanted to make sure that this is all working. Oh, good, good. I'm glad you had a good Thanksgiving. Will, No Limit, did you have a good Thanksgiving? I can tell you guys it was my first Thanksgiving off in almost 10 years. So I actually got to be home all day with everybody and family and stuff. So it was really nice. And I'm very grateful for that. I had to work yesterday because of it, but I'll take what I can get. Sure, there's plenty to do. You could play Axis and Allies because everything's closed and there's always a game to play and there's always a board to demolish. See, Will agrees with me, and I cannot disagree with that. With that, we are working on World War II. We're getting that together for you guys. I uploaded a video yesterday, part 3 of World War II. The game is steadily working its way through a very aggressive game. Japan is still sitting on the coast. Germany is working its way into Russia. England is knocking out the Italian fleet out of the Mediterranean. There's lots of stuff going on. Middle Earth right now still has Italians and the British faction still sitting in it. Um, and big surprise coming up, and it'll be in the NATO's video later. America rolled for their production, and you volunteering no what? Anyway, America rolled for their production. It's 56 for them to go into the war. They rolled a 12, took them up to 55 IPP. So whether Japan is ready or not, here comes America. So yeah, Will, I'm on the same page with you. Like, okay. So, but yeah, America's going into the war in the next round. So that's exciting because that's very early in one of our global games for them to show up in the war. But that's what happens when the production roll is so high. So, are you done stuffing your face? Almost? Okay. So for Thanksgiving, do you get do I have do we have the Turkey at War expansion or no? No, we haven't picked that one up yet. That is one that we are looking to get into. Um, that we have discussed putting in there so that the Middle Earth area can get a little more involved. Right up there with deciding what we're going to do with South America. So we have so much stuff, Will, that a lot of times it's very difficult to keep track of all of it. I have a container just for roundels, and it's all the very minor factions. So there's not any huge ones. I don't know where. Oh, it's over there. But it's got like the Civil War, and it's got Korea and Vietnam and stuff like that. So um, we have a lot of stuff. And sometimes it's difficult to keep track of it all. Hey, look, it's NATO. Say hi, NATO. There we go. So close this off because I will dump it. So there it is. That's just roundels. Um, there's no other pieces in here. It's fantastic. Oh yeah, slide up a chair.
Ass dog.
Will says he's too cheap to get the expansion, so he made his own.
Nice. You may or may not be thinking a similar thing, like the Warsaw Uprising in 1944, late 1944, that HPG does not have or implement. Or kind of thinking about doing that.
Hand grenade. Hi, hun. How are you? And same to you. Happy belated Thanksgiving. We will reinforce the concept that we will not state how much money we have spent this month or last month or the past 6 months. I can tell you it's over $4,000. I will say that. And that's just stuff that we've picked up over the past couple of years. It's well over $4,000. So between um, my my hobbies, aside from Axis and Allies, and NATO's hobbies, um, because I quilt, and quilting costs probably just as much as this game does. So yeah, we've spent quite the penny on all of the above. Your brow has furrowed at hearing which part, Will.
Seeing how much money we've spent on this.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it probably won't go down at any time soon. NATO's going off.
Crotch just vibrated.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of money, and so it's but we, like I said, we know how much the maps cost. We know how much things are. I know young Grasshopper was looking at a map, the one that he's trying to work on for 3G40. If you guys have seen it, he has put out there that it's not completely finished yet. So that's one that we're waiting on to be finished before we dish out anything for it. Mostly because I only want to pay once, and that's the way that that works. I would rather just pay one time over buying over and over and over the same exact thing with just a few changes on it. Oh, perfect. Share, please. So Will has up there that he's had more ideas about involving South America in World War II and the Cold War. So yeah, definitely share.
Hey.
Okay, so he put up there, he just watched a documentary, Reinhard Heydrich. Your hubby looks kind of like him, especially the haircut, no offense.
I know who that is, and that's not a good comparison.
He means no offense. And that was from No Limit. So that's okay. You can rattle his cage too, just like I do. It's okay. That's why we call him Rattles. That's why we love him. And No Limit, I am going to get you a shirt that says your ally was bit by Viper, because I think it's funny and totally suitable. So if you show up in Canada for the 2020 BunkerCon, I will have that waiting for you, but you'll have to come find me personally to get it. That would make sense because Germany did float over to Argentina during World War II. It wasn't a big thing and it wasn't really recognized too much, and there's not a lot of history on it, but that could work.
Grasshopper spent a little bit of time down there.
Yeah.
Before they scuttled it, because the British played a dirty trick on them. What's new? British and their damn tricks.
Yeah, so making Brazil join the Allies and Argentina join the Axis powers at a certain point in the game. Just out of curiosity, Will, I could see that being a mid game or an early late game type thing. Senor.
That would make it the.
Te llamo, senor. El llamo, senor.
That would make it
Hitler.
the second time that Hitler changed his name. Well, the family. Technically, the first time he changed his name was his father, but who's counting?
Yeah, el llamo, senor.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be like a mid to late game thing.
That's what I was thinking, like the early on late game part. So
like 43-ish.
Yeah.
You don't want it too late in the game, because if it's too late in the game, then it doesn't matter.
No, but with the location of Argentina, if they started off with.
No. There is some theory speculation that him and one of his nieces got it on,
or a cousin,
before she mysteriously wound up dead, but that isn't confirmed, so who the hell knows.
So what I'm thinking is that Argentina and Brazil could start off with a neutral navy, kind of like Spain does, rather small, but they would have a very tiny production, so they wouldn't be able to really work much. But I think to balance that, we would actually have to put Argentina with a little bit of a larger navy to float up the U.S. coast for a distraction purpose, if anything. Not so much mid-Atlantic or the Wolf Pack, but Right, and that's what I'm thinking too, is the Lend-Lease. Hey, Young Grasshopper's here. What's up, Young Grasshopper?
Yeah, and then historically, Brazil did join the war on the Allies' side. I don't remember exactly when, but they did supply, or they did join the Allies, and Brazil actually supplied the vast majority of beef to England during the war. So that was their major contribution. Argentina never joined, but it did have fascist leanings.
Right. And I know that Argentina was never actually in the war. Kind of like the concept of throwing
42.
yeah, mid 42,
Like
like second half of 42.
yeah, like they could like start the influence roles. If you wanted to implement an influence role, they could start mid 42, so that way they're in it one way or the other by 43.
Mhm.
Ferris Bueller, best friend.
Bueller. So with Argentina in that, because I'm an Axis player, the way I could see that working is definitely start with a small navy, maybe a destroyer or a coastal sub or something like that. That's basically just floating off the coast, lend lease on different directions. That could be possible, but the let's check production levels. Okay, dog is not right behind me. Move it to the board. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Let's see. What part of Brazil? There's 3 sections on the global board. We have Rio de Janeiro, Porto Velho, and Amazonas.
Oh, it's
So
all Brazil, so it would all be included.
let's see. So it'd be a 3 point. It'd be a 3 point IPP for both of them. Holy shit. That is a lot of cash. Must be America's.
Yeah. But Will said, and the more their major nations fight, their IPCs increase.
Oh, we deduced that. So it's an equal balance on the board on the global map from historical board gaming. 3 points apiece for Brazil and three for Argentina. How would we think about the more the major nations fight, their IPCs increase? Would that be like if Germany takes Leningrad? Would they have like a +2, or or if England wipes out the Italian fleet, does Brazil get a +2 or something of that nature? Would that sound like what you're talking about? Right. Excuse me. Right, and with Japan attacking China, um, their oil production is reduced also. So they stop receiving so many points from America for oil. I am going to die. Okay. Starting with the annexation of Austria. Okay.
So are you saying to modify Brazil and Argentina's total production value? Because as printed on the board, they only have 3 IPCs total apiece.
I get it. I'm gonna die.
And my wife is apparently hacking up a left lung. Breathe, you son of a bitch. Breathe.
Fuck you. I'm okay. Okay, well, while we wait on an answer for that, so Young Grasshopper had a great live stream yesterday. I caught it while I was at work. I was proctoring exams, so I wasn't able to chat with Grasshopper as much as I wanted to. The USA and Germany can choose to pay their respective minor allies. I think there would have to be a limit on that. I mean, America is sitting at 55 IPPs, you know, hello, Brazil.
I don't think it would be too bad because America still has to fight, you know, a two-front war. So I don't think they'd be dumping everything they had into Brazil because
No.
that'd be sacrificing Europe and the Pacific.
No limit. I am working on that for the Revolution and the Civil War, actually. I can see that. When it still compensates for the budgeting and the economy as is. So yeah, Young Grasshopper was talking about BunkerCon. BunkerCon is going to be coming up in 2020. We will be there. Have every intention of showing up, even if I have to induce myself with Dayquil and NyQuil so I'm not exploding into coughing explosions. So we have every intention of being there with you guys at the Diefenbunker. And see, General Hand Grenade has put up a couple videos, the most recent ones on Barbarossa, and then a game that, yeah, we saw the argument of who send it out to the public. Who's going to win? Who do you think is going to win? I'm biased, so I really liked how the Axis powers were looking on that. That is the intention. I'm hoping to have the rules and stuff uploaded so that they're on the website. And oh, I love it. I am trying to get the rules uploaded on the website. It is a very large book that we have put together. And I'm hoping to have at least one copy of them printed, laminated, and for showcasing so that we can build a booth to have that going.
Yeah, we were thinking about the drug wars because it, especially with like Will mentioning Mexico and some other South American countries, the drug wars did actually involve actual military assets from Mexico and other South American countries. Not so much America, but even the U.S. military does do some joint exercises with the Mexican military to fight the cartels. I may not have been involved in some of those. Anyways, and in terms of general your game, I think the Axis won.
Yeah, definitely looking at it. If the Axis powers have made it clear across Russia, I'm pretty sure that most of the game is over by then.
And then destroying the American fleet and all the transports in the Pacific, that would put America several turns back before they could do anything offensive again. So yeah, I think the Axis won.
Yeah. So I am looking at getting some T-shirts made. My ally was bit by Viper, and my Axis was, played by Viper or something like that. I haven't actually decided yet, but I am looking into it, guys. So that is something that I'm going to look at to put out there for you guys. I might do it as gifts, mostly probably as gifts, but we'll see how that works out. As far as our World War II game, do you guys want to see it? Oh. We both own guns.
Massive firefight. Bullets everywhere.
Brass all over the place. No, we actually we don't fight, which is weird. We've been together for 8 years and we don't fight. We are human. We are adults, and we discuss things, and then we agree to disagree. And usually, it ends up being a roll of the dice, kind of like D&D. You know, if I get a 20, I'm going to win it. And since my 20 is a ring, I have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that's the if the Axis win World War II, that's actually the next scenario is
Yeah, America or Fortress America. So young Grasshopper, with the rules of the games, a lot of these rules we have discussed together, and some of them he has better ideas. Some of them I have better ideas. Some of them we agree to disagree. Some of them we disagree to disagree. And other ones we just toss because it's safer.
so far we've pretty much through discussion, sometimes a lot of discussion. So far we've managed to come to an agreement on pretty much any issue rule wise. So we actually haven't hit a standstill yet. So I actually don't know what we would do if that ever came to happen.
Now, and like I'll bring up a concept. One of our house rules, I actually brought up a concept because I was like, not because I'm an Axis player, but I actually was looking at it from an ally's perspective too, and is very interesting that an infantry unit can shoot down a plane. That is something I disagree with because planes are up there and we are down here. And I don't think that a bolt action 308 rifle can shoot down a Messerschmitt. Just saying. World War III, yeah, that could happen, but World War II, World War One, no, not so much. I mean, that guy's got to have like the best aim in the world. Hey, you know what? I'm originally from Texas, so I take part to that. But yeah, so it was and that was one of our house rules that we threw in there, along with being diced. We all have been diced. You get this massive pile of clinking D12s, and you throw them out there because that's how much crap you have on the board that's in this battle, and nothing hits. And so, and it will go back and forth like that. And I mean, it was bad enough that France actually beat Germany one time, and it was horrible. And Germany went in there with like some serious, hardcore firepower. I mean, tanks and infantry and planes and you name it, and they missed every single dice for 3 rolls in a row. That's being diced. Sure. Yes, actually. So, and then we redid it, and then we redid it, and we redid it, and it was insane. So we decided to put one of our house rules that we have is that if you get stupid dice like that, and you really took in some serious firepower, you didn't turtle up and just throw in a couple of militia or whatever, but you have some serious hardcore stuff going on, you do get to re-roll because if that much power is behind what you're throwing at it, throw the dice again. Something's got to hit.
True. It's mostly kind of going along with like a realism um, mentality. I mean, if you come in there and you got 4 divisions of tanks and 1 or 2 squadrons of planes and 6 divisions of infantry backed up by artillery. I mean, you got the entire combined arms asset going in and nothing hits. That's not really realistic. If you got that much firepower, something is going to die.
Whereas
And so, but it's kind of on a case by case basis. If you go in there, like Ruth said, if you go in there with just a handful of like weak stuff, nothing hits, then you're just gonna have to suck it up. But if you go in there with some firepower, something's gonna hit realistically. And so we threw that in that it on a case by case judgment that if you go in there with what both parties agree, it's not just the roller, both parties have to agree that you went in there with sufficient force and nothing hit, you get to re-roll.
Yeah, but whereas if you're in like Manchuria and you just have an infantry and a Kwangtung army going up against Chinese infantry and you miss, sucks to be you. Like I told Rattles yesterday, suck it up, Buttercup, because that's the way the game is played. You know what? That's what happened because I went to my room, I closed my door, and I cradled myself for probably an hour and cried because I felt like I should have been in a small room with a really, really, really tight jacket. And that actually happened. Germany lost to France within, I was thinking it was like the second round. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. I give up. 8-sided versus 12-sided. Where are my 8-sided?
I actually
I don't know. I collect dice, so I'll have to go find it.
8-sided versus 12-sided. I don't know. I've never even considered that. So,
well, the 3G40 is based on 8-sided dice.
Oh.
So no limit. We've talked about that with the only one against aircrafts, but only if the plane misses in the first round for strafing. You can't get. Anyway, 6-sided, can't count that high. I like them all, but I collect dice. So I have vases in my windows that are just filled with dice of all shapes and colors and stuff. I have Farkle dice, I have regular dice, I have all kinds of stuff. So no limit, back to you. We have talked about that. My thing was is if you have one infantry and it's going up against a tactical, okay, or a medium bomber, and that's it. Yeah, dice within dice. I have those too. Then I don't think that an infantry should be able to shoot down a plane by itself. I don't think that's very realist. It's not immersive. It's not. It's not even true. I mean, the plane would have to be within a certain level for the bullet to. Oh. That's awesome. But I that's where that part comes into. Whereas if you bring in an infantry with an artillery, sure, you should be able to at least attempt to hit the plane because an artillery has a lot more inertia to shoot that very large piece of brass at the plane. And Sired Blood probably should have promised not to do that for the rest of the trip. I would have done the same thing. I would have like, don't talk to me. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. You were speaking like Taiwanese or another language that I don't already know. See, well, tanks, heavy armor tanks specifically. I could if I had my miniature pull sticks. Just throw that out there. I do like to shoot billiards, so
Then just to play devil's advocate with the infantry shooting down a plane, also got to remember that infantry sculpt, it isn't just one guy. It's a whole division roughly. I mean, and you know, granted this isn't for every nation, but for most of the major belligerents, an infantry division wasn't just a bunch of dudes with rifles. They also had, you know, assuming it's a properly outfitted division, it also, you know, it has trucks and it has, you know, mounted its own mounted anti-aircraft. And so it isn't necessarily just guys with, you know, Car 98s shooting down you know, planes. But then you also got to consider game mechanics, because if you take it away the infantry can't shoot down planes, then you also have to balance it against the plane being overpowered at that point, because then at that point the only thing that can shoot down a plane is another plane. And for countries that have a lot of production, that's no big deal. But for small countries like Italy or KMT that can't just pump out planes left and right, that puts them at a severe disadvantage. So how do you balance that game mechanic wise?
I had to put my skull away. I'm hunting dice.
That is true.
And see, Will, that's the page that I'm on. I don't think that's fair either. Dice. Lots of dice. Unique battle mechanics that prevent infantry from hitting aircraft. I would love to see those battle mechanics, young Grasshopper. Are they in the forum or my 20? No. I am a cosplay champion. If anybody has ever found me on Facebook, they can go see a lot of my cosplay pictures that are on there. So I own a lot of costume stuff, including stuff that I've made. But thank you.
She's wearing it because I like leather, especially on women.
I have quite a few corsets and vests and undercuts. So so questions. Do you guys have any other questions besides that? Grasshopper, you'll notice that I yeah, secrets to be known and secrets to be told later, because I'm working on stuff for that. How about that? And yes, for BunkerCon, because I have the dresses already. No, not yet. Actually, I'm looking for some. I have black dice that have skulls embedded into them, but I do not have leather dice yet. And actually, I have a setup for when we get into the Cold Wars too. So I have the dress, the polka dotted 50s dress, and all of that stuff. And I've been doing that for years. So it's cold outside. It's hotter than hell in here. It just snowed for the first time yesterday or last night. So
Have not.
that's on you.
Not?
You take your beatings like the bitch you are. No, he hasn't. I have read Elite of the Reich, but I haven't seen a player aid for it.
Neither have I.
Well, then get on it,
You
Buttercup.
get the hell on it.
Busy doing other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll check it out. Definitely. Yes. Yes. We're still talking about the game beatings. Well, let's see. Which video did you leave that on, hand grenade? I only have one comment here.
And the Brazil and Argentina thing that you mentioned, Will, I think we are going to do that for World War III, where Brazil and Argentina can be aligned by their respective alliances. Definitely World War III, just to bring the South American continent into it. I like your idea about the drug wars for the Cold War.
Here. I'm thinking you tell. So, okay, there we go. Not yet, but a lot of that has to do with our schedules and not having the actual open schedule. No, that's not it. That's a Shapeways link. So, but we are looking to put one together. I do want to try to do either a live play or a play-by-play in at the end of March. Because I am planning on taking multiple days off. That is right before our biggest, heaviest season at work really hits, and the end of tax season. As for those of you who don't know, I'm a senior tax analyst and I'm a lead instructor for the state. So China versus Taiwan, nice. But I am planning on taking those few days off before that heavy season hits because that's probably the first time I'm going to get any time off once January hits. And it just happens to be my birthday at the same time. It's every year. It doesn't fail.
And for Cold War, Korean War, Vietnam War, Russia and Afghan War, and the 3 Israel versus everybody wars will be included. China and Taiwan, hadn't considered that. What's your thoughts on that, Will? East.
Not yet.
No.
We're getting there. China versus Taiwan. It says the USA has to get involved.
I know historically, U.S. backed Taiwan, and then China across the strait set up artillery batteries that were starting to lob shells at Taiwan, and then we threatened to use nuclear weapons, and then Uncle Joe pissed his pants because he didn't want a nuclear war over a tiny ass island. So, are you thinking on something along those lines, Will, or are you talking actual armed conflict?
USA defends Taiwan. Armed conflict.
That be like a conditional basis or scripted that this happens? Like no ifs, ands, or buts.
I like that.
The way we have it set up right now, and we'll definitely take that into consideration. The way we have it set up right now is the end result of each proxy war is added as like kind of as like a victory point. So, you know, um, North Vietnam unifies Vietnam and becomes communist. That would be a point in the uh, towards Russia. And then once the Cold War ends, whoever quote unquote wins the Cold War will depict how far into Europe Russia starts. So, like if the Russians win the Cold War, then they start World War III still in Berlin. Whereas if they lose, the Soviet Union falls, and then the satellite countries break off. So Germany gets unified, Poland becomes independent again, all that stuff. So World War III, Russia starts much further back than if they win. But we could think about a mechanic where a proxy war can trigger World War III much earlier.
Red World?
No, I have not.
Damn it, Tristan has my tablet.
I'm guessing that's Soviet Union controls the world or something.
Ich weiß das nicht. That one's on you.
For
The sub-warfare mechanics of which game, Young Grasshopper?
is each other? Ooh, that would be weird.
Wars of the World 2. So, you can start with the basics of coastals and then move up.
Yeah, we're just kind of doing the vanilla. What we've been doing with the sub mechanics is I don't think we've done anything different with it. We just if
subnets.
Yeah. True. I guess the subs get first strike and they can submerge whenever unless
there's a
destroyer there. Then if there's a destroyer there, then they don't get that first strike, and then they can't submerge, so that they have to stick it out.
Is that in here, the subnets? Is it in the big box?
No, it's in there.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Well, and we also use submarine nets or torpedo nets. So,
and with that, we say that for a plane can go after a sub by itself, but it gets one roll. But if it misses, then the sub can submerge and run away. But if there's a destroyer with a plane, then yeah, the sub has to stick it out to the death. Never think of having Russia join Japan. I don't know. We've actually never had Berlin fall.
Yeah,
So
Berlin never falls. But then again, neither does Tokyo. So,
in the 36 regard, because there's a time limit, so we've always ran out of time before Berlin or Tokyo has fallen. So I don't know. We've never came across that.
So yesterday, I'm going to throw this in there. Not all planes back then had a radar. If any, mostly just had bombers. Yeah. Or, guys leaning out the top of the plane, dropping bombs. That was actually a thing. No limit. Yesterday, when we put the video up, you put up a comment about hospitals. So for those of you who, I know you watch the videos, but a little bit closer up, those are the hospitals. So there's a hospital ship and a hospital itself. Medical hospitals are mobile. I know a lot of people don't use them. You can get the acrylics on Historical Board Gaming over there on HBG. But No Limit's comment was he wished more people would use them, especially in videos. Subs to submerge with.
And we don't.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
I like that.
We don't use that mechanic. Grasshopper, if you'd be willing to send us a message on how the depth charges work.
The rules he has listed up on the forum. We'll have to go to the forum and grab them so we can take a look.
Okay.
Okay.
Never mind.
We'll get it.
Like MASH.
Why on earth would the U.S. want to develop rockets in that game, since you can only fire them a couple of spaces?
Yeah, that confused me too. There's no reason for America to develop rockets because, like you said, General, they're too far away. If I remember, yeah, it doesn't matter where they built it; it'd be too far away. So yeah.
And Will, with the hospitals, early games in our series. Yeah, true. In the earlier games like the Civil War and stuff like that, when the hospitals really picked up with amputations, it was a really good thing to have. As far as the Manchukuo expansion and China and stuff like that, they're good to have too, because it's a 50-50 chance on whether or not your person is going to die or not. So you roll a d6. 1 to 3, you die. 4, 5, 6, you live. So it really brings in that concept of, especially back during the American Civil War, when lives were saved, yes, but most of them really weren't on a whole. Strategically, a lot of lives were saved because the people were still living, but most of them were amputees or later were infected with gangrene or something like that. So,
and it, more or less being able to get half of your, and it's only infantry that you can do it for, and being able to get roughly half of the infantry you lose back, it does free up money for higher end.
And we've also found that it's actually balancing the game a little bit more, because if you are getting your people back, your roles are really done well, then you can use the IPPs to increase your odds instead of replace your odds.
It makes China much more formidable against Japan, because China is pretty much all infantry, and it makes it much harder for Japan to steamroll China. And then, General, back to the one of America's victory points being just technology. It kind of gives America a free point, because last turn there's no point in buying any units, so America just dumps all of its money into tech dice and rolls like 20 rolls Let's see, 50. Yeah, so rolls 25 dice for tech and gets all of them. So he pretty much gives America a free point. They don't have to actually do anything for it. At least that's what I do with America. Is I wait to the last turn and just buy nothing but tech dice and just vomit tech dice and get my free point. Okay.
Paper.
Oh. Well, shit. Then I've been doing that wrong. Whoops. It wasn't on purpose.
Don't blame me. I follow his lead.
Sure, blame it all on me.
Well, yeah, I'm the pretty face. You can't blame things on me.
Sure.
You must reserve the pretty women. They are far and few and
must
scarce.
protect the pretty women.
And preserve them.
I guess that is the same.
Cheater. He called you a cheater.
What?
Look at me. All right, young Grasshopper, I have your email, so I will shoot one to you here shortly after we get done today. So a couple of updates. I don't have actual dates for this, but there's the Battle in the Bay down in California. That's coming up. The West Coast Invitational, that's coming up. I'm going to be really excited to watch the videos on that, especially as I get much busier. The holidays are coming up, so I know we will probably do a live stream before then. Does anybody else have tournaments coming up here relatively soon? I must mention West Coast and Battle of the Bay. Okay. Awesome. So that's probably the one that we've been watching this whole time. Canada got destroyed.
How did Canada get destroyed?
Thank you.
I mean, aside from somebody, probably England and America, really screwed up.
Trenton.
We don't have any retreat rules currently, but I agree with you, No Limit, that that it happened and happened a lot.
Okay.
Oh, so cross-border rivalry, I guess.
Ouch. Oh my. Well, when we finally decide to have time to do a rumble in the big sky, we will let you guys know for sure. We'll probably we will definitely have to get a venue, depending on how many people decide to show up. I think we'll put out an announcement probably easily 3 to 4 months before we decide to do it. That way we can at least get some place reserved. You go with your bad self, General Hand Grenade. You would have been the difference, so you could have patched the maple syrup wounds. You would have cleaned shop. I like it. Yeah, we heard, and that's super. That's congratulations to him. So I mean, that's awesome. That's on you. Oh, I probably would have been the sober one there too because and NATO because NATO doesn't drink. I like wine. We're just gonna leave it at that. I like wine.
Being hammered while
playing this, it's different if you're hammered and throwing darts, but if you're playing the board, you probably shouldn't have that.
Trying to coordinate global strategy while hammered is probably not the best idea.
You know what? But I'm getting live video of that if that happens because that's going to be hilarious and that is going up on the channel. I don't play while I'm blasted. I'm usually on my 4th pot of coffee by the time I'm playing. I like my coffee. We know. You don't have to tell us, Rattles. We know. I say that with a smile.
Does anybody out there have any ideas on how to implement nuclear weapons without them being overpowered and it just turning into a nuke fest? Because we want to we want this to be a strategy game, not Fallout. So any for World War III, anybody have any ideas how to implement nukes that are fair? And because we don't want one person to launch and then everyone launches in return, and then 3/4 of the board is irradiated wasteland and strategy goes out the window and just turns into a nuke fest. So any ideas would be helpful because me and Viper have been struggling with this for ever.
We've come up with a few ideas, but every time we come up with something, one of us will have a backlash on it or yeah, but moment. So it goes back and forth. So we really haven't. Yeah, we have America actually hand grenade. Right, and that's something we talked about in the last live stream.
Yeah. Especially with today's nukes, yeah, nothing in the territory is gonna survive.
Destroyer of Worlds is right underneath my feet, so. We've seen several videos regarding nukes. Supremacy is a great. Yeah, Supremacy, that is one of the good ones, and Diplomacy is also another good one. Can't build land units in that territory for the next round or move any units in or out. That could work because that makes it impassable.
Yeah, and agree with everything said. Like my problem with it is it's not an if but a when you have that player that's going to first thing he does is going to launch is he's going to launch, which is going to force everyone else to launch too because they have to in order to survive. And I don't want that to happen because inevitably each game is just going to turn into a nuke fest, and there's no strategy in that. It's just launch everything you have. So that's the problem we're having is how to keep it from just turning into a nuke fest. Yeah.
I think the radiation would actually be like tenfold of whatever the area's IPC worth is. So you have a unit that's worth, or an area that's worth 1. They have to pay out 10 to alleviate radiation. 10 to 15 fold. I don't know. Which could get really interesting with your areas that are worth three IPPs each. Now you got Berlin, and then all of a sudden it's 30 IPPs to eliminate the irradiation. Double the IPPs or 20 fold.
I think in that instance, you just write Berlin off as a lost
Yeah, pretty
cause.
much. But like, I just build a factory somewhere else. Yeah, but I mean, if you got a ground zero, then it makes sense. Ooh. Grasshopper, I think you are onto something. That's a good idea.
That could work.
We don't have a reputation scoreboard, but we'd have to get one.
Or like along those lines, like you'd have to sacrifice like a victory point or something to launch.
A victory point or a territory.
Yeah. That's a good
What
idea.
if you launched from a territory, but you sacrificed that territory to nuke something else?
I like Grasshopper's idea.
And Will's combined with it. Right. No limit, honey. Read a book. And depending on which book, it's IPP or IPC. Yeah, and Grenade, what I'm thinking is Sam, I am. So what I'm thinking is that if you launch, not just that you would lose global rep score, but you would lose the territory you launched from. So you would lose your rep score, you lose your production points for the territory you launched from, which would obviously have to have a launching facility. So which means you eliminate your launching facility. So I mean that's you got that from a joke book. Oh, that's so cute. So you lose the production that you paid for the facility. You lose the production for the territory that you launched from. But you annihilated a territory or a city of someone else. So let's say Germany launches on France. No. No, but radiation levels can expand. So that's something to keep in mind. And see, one of the things that NATO and I had discussed with that, especially because we were really looking at the line between Russia and Germany. No shit. But what we were thinking was that if you launched from a specific area, that the direct surrounding territories would lose 1 point in production value from radiation poisoning. So take Kiev. So if you launched from Kiev, that was a good one because that one was big. So if you actually launched from Kiev to Germany, then you would have, as Will puts it, a recoil of where the production area around that specific area that's specific to you as the Soviet would lose 1 point in production per territory. So if you got 7 in a total production, each one of those would lose 1, and it would bring it down significantly, especially those areas that are only 1 production point until you pay to have it reassessed. That was one of the big things that we talked about. Right, and agreed, but this was kind of on the same lines of having that global reputation go down. Instead of the global reputation, they would lose production value instead.
Granted, that was just an initial idea to try to
Hmm.
make people hesitant to, launch right out of the gate. But yeah, I like your idea, Grasshopper. I think,
Low rep score, lose allies. The lower the score, the more powerful the ally.
yeah, I like your idea, Grasshopper, about adding like a reputation score and having that have penalties if it gets too low and having launching hurt that. I think that's a really good idea. I think we can definitely flesh that out more. I think that's a lot better idea than
Right.
anything we've come up with.
Right. And Will and Grasshopper, great. These are great ideas, and we do appreciate them. And like we said, we've hashed out ideas, but we haven't really put anything to paper yet because every time we talk about something, something comes back at it and it backlashes at itself. So this is the one thing that we have really struggled with to build for the game system. Who's that rep
Yeah,
tracker?
I think that would be a pretty good deterrent if allies start dropping out if it gets too low.
Yeah, I like that too because, and then if you, because I mean, even with the global war rules, once you become allies with certain people, depending on your nation, your production value goes up and stuff like that too. So, I mean, I like that. I really like that.
Especially for like um, the communist faction, because well, depending on how various scenarios go, it could just be Russia and China, and if either one of them loses that,
They become neutral, and if you keep bombing people, they switch sides. But see, there's a deterrence there because then you don't want, if you see one nation who is starting to bomb with nuclears, you don't because you want those to start coming your way. So as an Axis player, yeah, I would back off of nuclears because yeah, I'm going to say, "Hey, come on over here. We're not throwing bombs at people."
well, that's more or less the same thing, just reversed. If you're not throwing nukes and you keep your allies,
Right,
it's
but
not.
and you gain allies, but then my thing is the deterrence there is it would deny or delay people and they would turtle up to not do it because they want to keep their allies or gain the others. And as aggressive players as we are, yeah, that's definitely deferral to not throw nuclear bombs, but at the same time, once one starts, that's more reason to not do it.
Oh, not to retaliate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Right.
and realistically, that's more or less what would happen. Nukes would be the absolute last resort because in the real world, no, well, most people aren't insane enough to launch nukes right away because that would trigger, a retaliatory strike, and even the maddest dictator still wants a world to rule over, not ashes. So
Right.
I think, yeah. So Will and Grasshopper, I think,
You guys are onto something really awesome, and we'll definitely have to be in touch. Grasshopper, I will email you one of our phone numbers so you can get in touch with us. Um,
yeah, especially
that's a good idea too. Yeah.
especially for the allies. That would be a definite mechanic for at least the allies.
Well, the Axis powers too, because you only have three, and Italy gets knocked out in the beginning, like France. So,
Yeah, well, the Axis have slash the communists, depending on outcome of scenarios, they had a lot less communication with each other than the allies did.
right.
But yeah, it'd probably have to be for something that big. It'd probably have to be everyone.
And I have to agree, Grasshopper. I mean, yes, we're aggressive players, but being too aggressive is always a bad thing. Okay, perfect. That works. Because you guys have NATO's number in that, so that works. It's an overpowered defense. I like it.
Some truth to that.
You can message him on the WhatsApp. So, all right, guys, we've been on for over an hour. I'm going to get off of here. We will catch you guys again. Thank you so much for everybody's ideas and for your support. Again, I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. If you do Thanksgiving and your phone just went off, or yeah, that was you. So God bless to all of you guys. Thank you so much. We will catch you on the next round right here from the nest.